Hello and welcome to our April. I almost said March, but it's not March, it's April monthly coaches call with our Osborn Performance System coaches, myself, Dr. Dave Osborn, Coach Monica Cahalan, Coach Jeff Harwell, and we are joined today by not one, not two, not three, by four-time world's strongest woman, Erin Murray. Erin, we are so glad to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, Erin, we normally just kind of jump right into it with the questions and then we start rocking off on tangents from there.
Cool.
So, going from our user submitted questions, thank you everyone who participated this last month. We've been really excited about this call. Let's start with our first question. Erin, what are some strongman movements that you think have great carryover for all strength athletes, regardless of what, version of strength athleticism they're competing in?
Oh, so that's a tough one because I guess we're talking mostly powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting. They're kind of like the big other ones. I don't know if we'd consider bodybuilding in there.
I would.
I
Maybe
wouldn't.
CrossFit, maybe.
Maybe
stones,
CrossFit.
stone
Um,
lifting.
yeah. So it kind of depends because each of those sports I think have different deficiencies. I think
Sure.
the biggest thing that carries over for any sort of athlete, moving events. I think
Absolutely. Yeah.
like that, like stability under load while moving is just something that you can't get in static lifts. And a lot of that stability, I think, is lacking when you only do static lifts. And so any sort of moving event, any sort of moving with something that's unstable, I think is just good for every athlete and just good for everyone in life to have that
Yeah.
resiliency. And then some more like specific things, like Olympic weightlifting specifically. I think they tend to train in extension so much that introducing something like stone
Flexion.
loads, sandbag loads, something that forces them into spinal flexion would be really valuable. I think we're kind of, a lot of people are conditioned to believe that spinal flexion is bad, but
Yes.
untrained spinal flexion is bad. But being resilient means being resilient in all angles, positions, planes. So something like an Olympic weightlifter where they train so much in extension, balancing that out with something like a stone load to get them into flexion, I think would be valuable.
I think that's fantastic advice, especially with like the concept of training flexion, right? We like to think of flexion as bad because we're coming from an extended state and then moving into flexion, which may not be
Mm-hmm.
all that great, but learning how to set and hold flexion with isometric strength, right? And lock that position in is a supremely valuable skill. And like you said, the practical strength application of that is so high. Um,
I think you see people that are so strong in the gym and then they go to life and they get hurt, like loading a dirt bike into their truck because yeah,
yeah,
experience because you train in the same positions, but life doesn't happen in those
Right.
positions. And so I think like moving with sandbags, like where you have to like carry something and rotate with it, like you don't really get elements of rotation at all in powerlifting and
Not
Olympic
at all.
weightlifting.
totally.
But you rotate in life all the time. So
Absolutely.
even if
The,
it's not part of your sport, I think incorporating that is just good for health and longevity.
yeah, and I think that's, one of the huge advantages to strongman, right? Stone sports, all those kinds of things is like you said, you have loaded movement that's multi-planar, right? It's not just sagittal plane. You have transverse plane, you have lateral plane, and all the stability and torque production that comes from moving in those planes as well. Is there a loaded carry or loaded movement that you like to see beginners start with before they move into other ones?
I'd say I probably start most people with a farmer's carry. It's very applicable. For most people, the load is going to be limited by their grip strength. So you're not going
Yeah.
to run the risk of someone pushing way too hard. Like a yoke, it's really easy to put way more weight on than you should at first. Farmers is kind of limited,
Right.
by
Yeah.
nature. The instability of having two separate handles that move independently adds another element of stability, which again is going to limit the weight, but get more out of the movement for the reason that you're using it. So I would usually
Yeah.
start people with a farmer's.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Do you have an opinion on using straps for farmers?
I think it's risky.
Oh, interesting.
I
Okay.
think anytime you strap into something very heavy, you run the risk of like shoulder injury, AC joint separation. Like if you don't use straps, like your hands are going to fail before your body fails for most people. And sometimes that can be a protective thing, like being strapped
Yeah.
into something that you're not strong enough to be holding on to. If you can't let go, something else might let go that you
Might
don't
let
want
go.
to. So I just think it's not smart
I think
for most
that's a
people.
yeah, that's a wonderful way to phrase that. That's great example.
What
Uh yeah, go
about
Monica.
just because we're talking about like versatility and sports and stuff. So you had the opportunity to do like a different type of event recently, which wasn't your sport,
Yes.
Erin. And
Yes.
like, what did you learn? Because like, I think there's so many movements that you do as a strongman that are really applicable to a lot of different things. But like,
Mhm.
what did you take away from that and go like, oh, this is what carried over and this is what did it?
Mental toughness. I think there was, and I think in a really valuable way, though, I think in strength sports, everything that we do, you're going to get to a point where you just can't do it again. Like if we're doing something for reps and I'm just not strong enough to hit that 10th rep, the bar is just not going to go anywhere. And like you're done. Like I can load 700 pounds on a deadlift bar, and no matter how bad I want to pick it up, I'm not strong enough to do it. So it's not going to go anywhere. A lot of those movements, they're like, body weight movements are very light or like cardio stuff. You can will your body to keep going much longer than you think. And so
Yeah.
it's not like having a weight on a bar that's just too heavy to move. Like it's black and white. You can move it or you can't. With that kind of like CrossFit hybridy stuff, you never really get to that point because you can keep pushing and you can force yourself to keep moving. So I think some element of that mental toughness was really valuable for me to like carry over into my strongman training and realize like, okay, it's not that bad. Like we can keep pushing, but also that kind of being able to reflect and be objective about when it's smart to keep pushing and when it's not, because you can like I can make myself keep doing burpees indefinitely, really, but being able to be in tune with like, okay, what is the point where if I keep pushing, it's going to be detrimental? Um, that we
That
don't,
line is a lot blurrier in that
yeah,
sport.
yeah, like you're not really ever forced to stop. And so you have to be a lot more aware of how things feel and be objective about like, am I hurt or hurting?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and then just in general, like conditioning, like my conditioning is so in excess of what I need for strongman now. Like I have so many imams and stuff in my training that I used to hate, and I would like they would fry me, and now I'm kind of just like twiddling my thumbs, like this feels like a lot of rest time. Different perspective.
Totally.
Yeah, but it's a good
45 seconds to like a minute goes by really slowly when you're just standing around waiting for it to pass. Huh?
Yeah. Very, very different.
I think that's such a wonderful trait, right? That mental resilience, that toughness, right? To be able to have an experience outside of your main competitive sport. And you've always done such a great job through your whole lifting career of pushing yourself in different sports, different
Mhm.
strength sports, and making yourself a very well-rounded athlete. And then to have that little bit break, get into more of the calisthenic area, the body weight movements, and some more long endurance events. Like that's such a gift to you now as a strongman competitor. And like you said, being able to reframe the mental effort and the willpower, right? And just the resiliency to get through what used to be very demanding sessions. And now you have a different perspective and been able to grow as an athlete. Like that's a wonderful thing that you get to not just have for yourself, but you're a coach,
Mhm.
right? And you get to share that same thing with your clients. And I think that's such a huge benefit for them that they have a coach so well experienced in so many different strength sports. And you have the skill and the practice at implementing different parts of each sport within your training to make it a very robust training system.
Yeah, because I mean, like my clients don't all have the same goals as me,
Mhm.
right? So being able to program stuff that's not necessarily what I would do for my goals is valuable, but I also personally don't like programming things for clients that I haven't done myself. Like
Yes.
I like to see how it feels and actually have my own like like a perspective on like what I'm putting people through. And so if someone came to me and told me that they wanted to to do a high rocks, it would be really hard. I think I could coach them, but it would be hard for me personally because I would know that I would have to program them stuff that I haven't done myself. And I don't like that. And so it's cool to kind of dabble in other things and have that perspective of like, okay, I've done this before. I know how this feels, and it makes me be able to serve clients of
Yeah.
different goals a lot better.
Yeah, and that speaks to your integrity as a coach as well, that you are unwilling to put someone through a demand that you are unsure of how that demand will be responded to, right?
Mhm.
And that's the sign of a great coach, is just really understanding what we are asking of our lifters, right? Like Jeff had a max effort double this last weekend where he comes up out of the hole in the first one. I can already see him shaking his head. No, you'll get me out of there. But me knowing my lifter and knowing what 584 for a double feels like and seeing him, perform that lift, I knew he could do that second rep. And I had no problem like just encouraging and not letting him take that out, right? And getting him the self-confidence to realize like, holy shit, I can do that and I can do it well.
And
And
but
that,
it's hard if you haven't done that yourself to
yes.
know what you're asking of someone. It's a lot harder.
Yeah, I would be so much more hesitant. I'd be
Mhm.
way less confident in my decisions. And at, a certain point, if you're asking for confidence from your athlete, you have to be projecting confidence in what you're asking of them.
Yeah, and it's hard to be confident if you're asking them to do something that where you don't know how it feels. Because some things look a lot nicer on paper
Yes.
than they actually are. And so like you can write stuff sometimes where it's like that doesn't look that bad until
Not
you
bad.
do it and it's like, okay, that was pretty mean.
Like,
Yeah, if you don't know what you have to recover from, how are you programming it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
absolutely. That was well said, Jeff.
Thank you.
Astute.
Wait, very, very poignant. Look at us. Look at us using our college level words.
Some SAT words.
Look, yeah.
Look at
This
us
is a
writers over here.
educational podcast.
So I will ask what
Yeah.
strongman type movements as powerlifters do you incorporate in your training?
Do you want Jeff, do you want to go? Because
What do I do in my training?
you
Yeah.
incorporate some. I'll give
We
mine
do,
after.
yeah, mostly loaded carries for the most part.
Yeah.
We have yokes right now. We have suitcase carries, farmer carries, Zerger carries were in there a couple weeks ago. But yeah, mostly just loaded carries
Yeah.
up the lower capacity, really.
And
You
how
have
do you program those in?
So for like Jeff's stuff, we do an SBD day, an accessory day, an SBD day, an accessory day. And so I'll put the loaded carries on the accessory days.
Mhm.
So that they're done. Typically, I'll have the squat, if it's like a yoke carry, I'll have them do it earlier in the week away from their squat movement.
Mhm.
And then if it was a farmer's walk or a suitcase carry, I'll do it after their deadlift training. So it doesn't affect grip for the deadlift, and that the two heavily axially loaded movements are separated a little bit further apart. Jeff also does some Viking press as well.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
I really like that. Just for having a machine, a little bit more stability, right? But like a great overhead, full body pressing movement.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm curious because I feel like there's mixed opinions about overhead for powerlifters.
I like
That-
overhead.
that's really funny. So yeah, I mean, my experience, is I benched well over 5 before really having to push my overhead more than like 185.
Mhm.
But when I started working with Josh Bryant, that was one thing he really believed in, was more upper body work. And if I was going to be a little too sore to be doing to regular bench presses during the week, it would either be an incline variant or an overhead press or a log overhead, right? Something that really hammers the triceps as they move into lockout. That's what I really love from the overhead pressing, is it is such a demand on the triceps if you're not trying to go for like a jerk or a split, right, to get under that log or under that bar, but just a strict press, like the tricep loading on that is just phenomenal. And like in my experience, when you get a really big bench, that tends to be kind of like something you have to focus on a lot more, is that tricep and lockout strength.
For sure. How important or potentially detrimental do you think? Because obviously overhead requires much more mobility demand
Yeah.
than a bench press. And obviously there's that balance of like, too much mobility comes at the expense of strength, tightness, tension that can be helpful, versus immobility. Obviously it comes with shoulder issues. So where do you find that balance between mobile enough to incorporate overhead without being too mobile in the shoulders, where a bench press is unsafe? Have you found that line?
Yeah, because like that's definitely something I struggle with on bench press, is that internal shoulder rotation and just being bound up there. So I've found for me, like having some more, because like with the overhead pressing, you have way more T-spine extension than what I could realistically get on a bench press. And being able to press from that extended state really helps me externally rotate and open up my shoulders, and my AC joints are clear and stuff like that, and allowing for that bar path. I think the hardest part is getting the body used to letting the bar sink down, right? And gaining some range of motion, above the chest. And maybe not every one of my reps is going to touch the chest, right? Maybe it'll just come down below my chin. It's still locked in and stable through my lats, and I can press up and through. But I think like, especially with powerlifting, I think it's a bad habit lifters can get into, where they want the tightness, right? Because tightness creates tension, but that chronic tightness and that chronic tension over long term without doing anything to fix your ability to externally rotate in the shoulder creates issues that you're better off not having to deal with. And like if getting under a straight bar is this whole ordeal, right? Like you're missing out on your ability to execute well within your sport, and you're overly tight. And I think it's much more common to be overly tight than to have issues creating tension or overly lax, right? And so in my opinion, with that, it's better to have the mobility work put into that program. And if you have an exercise that forces that mobility to a certain degree, especially in your off seasons, right, or a little bit further out from competition, that's a very valuable exercise to have.
Cool. Agree.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We did an Erin specific one. Now we'll do a group specific one, and then we'll get back to an Erin specific one after that. All right. So since actually this works out great because we were just talking about the off season. So the question is, how important is GPP, general physical preparedness and work capacity, in the off season? And how do you know when to start cutting back, or do you even have to cut back as competition comes closer? Monica, you want to start us off?
I think it's the most important time for GPP. It's the time to fix all the stuff that may have start to break down during prep, or things you realized weren't as strong as they were. And so, and it's the time to move in ways that aren't going to take away from your training, so to speak. A lot of times certain movements get avoided because it's not specific to the barbell or doesn't carry over specifically. And so I think the off season is a good time to try stuff that's, outside of that wheelhouse, and move your body in different planes and different, be more dynamic, or I don't know. It's time to hone in on all the stuff. So I think it's the most important time. And I don't think like scaling back is necessarily is the closer you get to competition. It's more like it gets specific and it gets really purposeful and intentional, and like movement becomes less exploratory and more intentional, I guess. So I don't
So
know.
if,
Yeah.
so if you had, let's use an example. So if you had a lifter, let's say in the off season, they got into running or trail running a little bit more. Their work capacity's on the way up, right? They're feeling themselves property. Is that something you would want to address as they get closer to competition? Let's say 6 weeks out, would you expect them to maintain that same trail running volume and mileage? Or would you want them to maybe dial back on it a little bit or
Oh,
adjust the time lengths?
I would definitely, it would probably be like, yeah, reduce the time and intensity of it as they get closer, just to really express as the most amount of strength possible for the specificity of what they're doing, whatever they're competing in, right? Yeah, I would say that, yeah, definitely intensity, volume drops, intensity drops, towards the tail end. But yeah, absolutely.
But you would still want to maintain it to some
Yeah,
degree.
because yeah, I think they're probably a well-conditioned athlete at that point, and it's part of a lot of different things. One, they're like mental, part of their routine and their mobility and work capacity and conditioning. And so, yeah, I wouldn't totally take that away from them. Like running sucks, so if they're into it, like there's some reason they like it. Yeah, I don't want to take that completely away from them, but I would guess I would just more. Yeah, be more specific and intentional about kind of coasting into competition differently.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like maybe like during that prep, the goal isn't to get better at running, but
Right.
just to hold on to it so
Yeah.
that you don't lose it.
Totally lose it.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
that's the other part of running, especially, is like it takes for freaking ever to build up the endurance that you want and the work capacity that you want, but it is gone like so fast. Like it's pretty incredible. So I wouldn't want to totally derail somebody that way either.
The
Good.
interesting that was your example, because I am in fact running every
I
day
know. I
right
am
now.
so impressed. I'm just like on a treadmill right now, like trying to do daily on an incline and like get behind that. But like, yeah, I'm so impressed with your running. I'm just not there yet mentally.
But I did have to have a conversation with my coaches about that, because I'm prepping for a strongman contest
Yeah.
right now. And we had that conversation about like, this is a goal, and them kind of talking to me about like potential pros and cons of wanting to do that. And like, we all had to agree that I'm going to do it for this month, but once May hits and we're in those last 4 weeks of prep, we're going to dial back. Like, I can't afford to keep running every day. Like, not that we're going to take it out entirely,
Right.
but
Good. Yes.
every day is not going to be conducive anymore.
Just
Exactly.
modify it to something you can recover from.
Yeah.
That's really all it needs to be.
Yeah.
Man, is that all you get to say today? Is just like that wisdom, Jeff? Just drop it,
I'm in prep. My brain's fried.
You just got like a little nugget every once in a while.
drops of gold.
Good. Good. Well, yeah, let's have Erin expand on that a little bit more. So, big part of this off season for you, Erin, right, was getting comfortable with some mileage on the road, right? Getting the body running. Like you said, when you get to 4 weeks, that's going to taper down, not go away completely, because it's created this awesome adaptation that you want to be able to maintain during the peak. How many days are you gonna drop that running down to? Or are you gonna like modify like the time spent
Yeah.
running?
We're not sure yet. It kind of
Okay.
depends on how my body feels when we get there. Previously, like, my last prep, I tend to do 4 days of lifting and 2 days of conditioning a week anyways. So my guess is that it'll probably come down to just the 2 conditioning days and not on the lifting days, so that they can stay a little bit more separate. But I think it's also like for strongman, it's very show dependent. Like,
Yeah.
powerlifting, it's the same 3 lifts every single time. Like, your goal for every single show is to show up as strong as possible. Strongman is so varied. So like, I have a show at the end of May. It is a heavy show, but it's also a very high conditioning demand show. It's
Mhm.
it's a 10 event show. They do 10 events in 2 days. Each day, I think, is running like 4 hours. So you're getting through like 5 events in 4 hours. You have to be well conditioned to keep up
Yeah.
with that. On top of that, a lot of the events are medleys, like multiple
Yes.
implements, like, this is a very not static show. This is a very conditioning, movement heavy show. And so for this one, it maybe doesn't make sense to pull back too much on the conditioning, versus if I was training for the Arnold, where everything is heavy and like everything's going to be a max effort and I have to show up as strong as possible, I would have to regulate that a little bit more, probably. So it is
Yeah.
very show dependent, more so than powerlifting would be.
Yeah.
Is you're running more for distance, or are you doing sprints as well? Or
Right now, it's just kind of a personal goal of improving my mile time. So I'm doing a mile a day and breaking it up differently. So some days I'll do a mile straight. Some days I'll do like 400s for speed. I did like last week I had a day where it was 30-second sprints until I hit a mile. So it's different every day, but I'm accumulating 1 mile every day. Yep.
I like that. Do you feel like the improvements in aerobic capacity have an effect on your ability to recover in between events?
Oh, for sure. I feel it in my training that I used to like, I had sandbag to shoulder into duck walk today. And it sucked, but that's the kind of thing that I would normally rest 3 to 5 minutes or want to rest 3 to 5 minutes in between sets. And if I had to do shorter rest times, like it would be hard to get going again. Today, I did a set and it was challenging, but like within 30 seconds, I was kind of like, all right, like I'm kind of ready to go again. So like even when things are tiring, I feel like I recover from them very quickly.
Well, and that's huge. Like just think of the efficiency of that session, right? Where you're spending 3 to 5 minutes before recovering in between. Now it's 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And what you could get done in a session improves. How fast you can get through a session improves, right? Like it's just a much more well regulated body that you have, right? That's ready to adapt to the demands of training. Yeah. That's a very efficient progression as an athlete to be able to handle more work in less time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and great carryover for like my next show specifically, where they run it so fast. It's like as soon as you're done with an event, it's like, all right, go warm up for the next one because like we're rolling. I remember going to the show last year, and sometimes there wasn't even really a lot of warm up time in between events because they were just going, which is very different than some shows where it's like you'll have 5 hours in between events. But like for this competition specifically, I think it's going to be a huge advantage.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's something we've seen happen in powerlifting in recent years as well, is just, shorter session meets, a lot more, A-B style flights, where one flight's lifting, the other flight's warming up, and just going through the whole meet that way rather than 4 or 5 flights of 10 to 15 lifters where you have an hour, 2, 3 hours in between your attempts. It's a much different effort at the end of the day.
Which do you guys prefer?
Jeff?
I think sessions, shorter ones. Yeah. Personally, I don't know. I hate sitting around for hours and just waiting to warm up again. Just the anxiety,
like that, like up and down,
adrenaline anxiety dips. It's just too much. So I like just being able to go, like grab something to eat real quick, go right back into the warm up room, get ready.
What do you think, Monica?
I actually I liked the shorter, like the sessions, the quick. I mean, it was a really fast way to compete, but I handled it really well. The 12-hour one was really hard. It was really, really hard mentally. And it was like, all right, I ate like 2 sandwiches. Now what? It's just like so much sitting around, and I don't do well with that just in general. So yeah, I hated that. I hated the really long one.
Long day.
Yeah, it's a long day. It's draining. I think it's much easier to stay in flow state on a shorter session meet and just stay in your groove, not have to worry about getting cold, right? Like you just let your body go right into the next thing. And it seems to me like once the work capacity hurdle of that is overcome, like the performances are a lot more consistent between competitions.
Yeah. I'll say other end of the spectrum, the Athex event that I just did, the strength portion of that was so far on the speed end of the spectrum. It was 20 minutes.
Whoa.
To establish all 3 lifts. So it was 1
Holy
rep max
smokes.
strict press, 3 rep max back squat, 5 rep max deadlift. They gave you 6 minutes for the overhead, 6 minutes for the squat, 8 minutes for the deadlift, one right into the other. And then it was the
Did
fastest
That's
lifting I've ever done in my
insane.
life.
Did you have to share the equipment with anyone else while you were warming up?
No, so everyone had their
Okay.
own
Thank
like
God.
rack and their own bar and like plates, but you had to load all your own weights too.
My God, so
And,
it's
like-
not even like a real rest period at all. It's
No,
a different
No.
And
movement.
work up
Holy
to your
crap.
whatever rep max.
yeah. So
Like,
that we got like a half hour of warm up time, like in the warm up area,
Okay.
so we could warm up, kind of.
like a
Just-
How
7
do you,
hour.
yeah, but how? Yeah.
But then like you come out and it's like, all right, time starts. You got 6 minutes. Like 6 minutes goes really fast.
So fast.
How many sets did you get in that 6 minutes on
So
squat?
I kind of like mentally went in knowing, because I didn't want to like go for broke and put too much on and then not have time to recover and hit something else. So like for each one, I kind of did like 2 attempts, like one that I knew I could hit, worst case scenario, like even if warm-ups didn't go great, like a comfortable, and then like my best case scenario. So I just did my first set at the start of the 6 minutes, loaded my weights, took like a 2-minute rest, and then went again.
Wow.
It was such a different way to lift.
Yeah,
No kidding.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
I love it.
I do too.
It's
That's
cool.
really,
There's
that's
it-
really cool.
That's so fun.
It was a very new challenge. Cause I mean, I feel like sometimes it's like with heavy sessions, I'll take 6 minutes in between
Totally.
attempts, sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
having your own weights. That's
Yeah.
a whole nother thing
That's
to it, too.
it's
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
it
different
doubles the
dynamic.
workout.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Hells yeah.
that's a little too far the other end of the spectrum.
Oh, fantastic. Good. All right. Jeff, do you want to talk about your GPP this off season?
I'm not in off season. What are you talking about?
I know, but your last off season that's led to these 2 incredibly successful back-to-back meet preps. I'm sure you did some things during that time that you think really helped.
Yeah, a lot of loaded carries. That was,
Good.
I think, the big basis of what we did. And like you said, a lot of, that's just GPP. We weren't talking about strongman stuff anymore. But yeah, I love searchers, the Zercher carries. I love those. I think they're really great for squats and yoke carries as well. I think it builds a ton of work capacity, and just having that weight on your back, the exposure of having the weight on your back over a lot of times, is very beneficial. Yeah, I respect you guys as strongman athletes so much, because like just breathing and moving with heavy weights is like so difficult. And then you have like a soft belt, then a hard belt over it. It's like, how do you breathe? I don't like that's
Just hold your breath.
Yeah.
The
Little
blood pressure goes
gasps.
too high, and then you can't see anything and you pass out. So
Does your GPP include any like more endurance work or like hybrid-y type training, or is it all pretty
Assault bike.
strength focused?
You do assault bike.
yeah, we do assault bike. And he programs that like sometimes to distance and usually to calories. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
You got any sort of like endurance training in your off season?
Not specifically. No, I walk a lot and I try to hike, but I hate it. But
There are other options.
no, I know. I've been recently, since I hurt my hamstring, I've been doing a lot of bike. Just the stationary bike. I used to cycle a ton, but it just kills my hips anymore to get on a bike anymore. So yeah, I'll do the assault bike and the stationary bike a lot. That's most endurance training I'll do.
Yeah.
At this point.
What about you guys?
I walk.
It's a powerlifter cardio.
Yeah. I mean, you're 300 plus pounds. I'm not that anymore, but that higher body weight, like I will eventually get back to a body weight where I'll feel more comfortable, like running or running uphill, stuff like that. I tend to think a lot about like just the stress of impact on joints in repetitive motions like running. So I'm a huge fan of walking, rucking, any sort of hiking, just the lower impact styles, even swimming, I think can be really great. I'm not the biggest fan of bicycling just because of the function of where you sit on the seat, how that affects the hip, how that affects the hamstrings. I have seen it just lead to some issues that we end up having to correct under the barbell.
What do you
But
see?
tight hamstrings for one. And then I tend to see, I have some clients that do some longer like trail rides and things like that. And I tend to see their low backs get pretty beat up, right? Especially over long hours. And it's a weekend activity for a lot of people. And so where they place that ride in their training order really starts to matter. And if, you have a long bike ride on Saturday and then you have deficit deadlifts on Sunday, like it can be a rough time. And so organizing the training and those excursions, I think becomes really important, and giving people enough time to get warmed up again, get the hamstrings moving correctly within the context of barbell movements. I think is really important for people that tend to have longer endurance hobbies or activities.
Hmm. Yeah, that's tough. It's interesting you say it because my dad actually I wrote my dad's program, and
Yeah.
he's a cyclist, and does like he cycles like they've gone I think 2 or 3 times in the last couple of years to like bike across Italy.
Oh,
Like he
wow.
does like 7 day cycling trips, and
Yes.
he loves it. So I've never would never tell someone not to do something that they love.
No,
But like
right?
he's had 2 hip replacements, and so we're trying to like balance that with the cycling and then wanting to lift, or like realizing that he needs to get stronger too, but like that's
Yes.
hard to do because like his
Yeah.
hips are always a mess. And I mean he's in his mid 50s, so like he's not old
No.
enough to have had 2 hip replacements, and I'm sure there's a lot of factors that have gone into that.
Sure,
But
sure.
like tens of thousands of miles on the bike is a huge one of those factors. So
Yeah.
it's like hard to
Yeah.
balance, like when someone loves something, like how do we mitigate that and early on
Hmm.
find ways to stay balanced instead of waiting until you're broken and then trying to fix it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so like, especially with that case with your dad, right? It becomes kind of like a question of, what's the correct dose of
Hmm.
training, right? That's going to aid his cycling, aid his, recovery in between rides, his stroke power, right? His recycling rate with his hips and everything. It, it's something where, the beauty of strength training is that it aids other things too. And it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be just the only sole goal is to progress X movement in load and
Yeah.
repetitions, but create better function in athletics. And I think, it's especially in long endurance sports, having strength training in unilateral movements, right? And ranges of motion outside of where he's at on a bicycle. All those things just have remarkable stabilization effect, right?
Hmm.
Resistance to injury and all those good things. And it doesn't take a ton,
Yeah.
but
And,
whatever we can do can still be incredibly helpful.
and the training goal is completely different. Like there's
Yes.
not really any reason for us to push heavy squats or like
Yes.
heavy deadlifts. Like the goal isn't to just to put more weight on the bar. The goal is like quality of movement, and movement that's going to supplement his main sport, which is not lifting.
Yes.
And so it's like which is interesting because I would say 90% of my clients, I work with them with their primary goal to get better at lifting.
Yeah.
And so you have to completely reframe. It's like this is actually not the priority in this person's
Yes.
like overall training plan.
Yeah. And so having, as a coach, a very clear view of what the objectives of training are for,
Hmm.
right, becomes very much needed. Let's get into the next one. All right. I like this question a lot. Erin, how do you decide what weight class you want to compete in? Do you look for where the most competition is, where you think you'll place best? Do you have different body weights you plan to be at through the competitive year, or is it like more by feel? Talk us through that.
So it's been very frustrating over the years. So
Mm,
I naturally kind of walk around 175 to 178, which is a very inconvenient weight to be
right,
at because the
right in
weight classes are
between.
180. So I'm either like a very small 180 because most of those girls will walk around at like 190, 200,
Yeah.
um, or a very big 160. with the cut that really sucks.
Sucks.
So the first couple of years of lifting, I competed at 82 just because we didn't have a 73 class yet. Like that was just kind of the only class for me. And then they came out with the 73 and I was like, oh, this is actually way more suited to my frame. So that's actually my favorite place to compete is in the 73 kilo class. It's where I feel the best. I feel athletic. I feel healthy. I had that, the goal of the multi-class titles. So because I had already done 82, I was like, why not just do them both? But the unfortunate reality of strongman right now is that all of the big shows, the big opportunities, the big money, the big sponsorships are for the open girls. And so I got to a point where I was just like, I want to do all those cool things. And unfortunately, they're just not available for weight classes. So I don't like being heavier. I don't like,
Right.
I don't feel good. I feel unhealthy. Like I'll feel strong, but I don't feel athletic. Like so many parts of what I love about the sport, I kind of lose. That was a big part of why I ultimately transitioned from powerlifting to strongman. Like one of the reasons was that I just loved feeling more athletic and moving and that it was so versatile. And I kind of lose that with the bigger shows, but
Yeah.
it was just kind of out of necessity. It's like, if I want these opportunities, this is the only way there. But I also couldn't let myself let go of the parts of the sport that I love, the more athletic and like feeling like an athlete. And so it kind of resulted in this like back and forth of trying to balance both of like, okay, how much do I need to push to do well enough as an open athlete to get those invites without pushing so hard that I can't then go back and do the sport really in the way that I love to do it. And that was a really hard back and forth for years. And I don't regret any of it. I think I did some
Sure.
really cool things. But looking back, I definitely feel like I capped my potential in both by not like committing one way or the other. Like because of that having to go back and forth, like I think I could have been a much better open athlete if I had just committed to staying at that weight and not cutting down several times a year. I think I could have been, I think I am a pretty good weight class athlete, but I think that like I could have been much better if I had just settled into that body weight and focused on just becoming that athlete. So hindsight's 2020. I wouldn't change it because I
Sure.
got to do some cool things, but I do think that it capped how well I could do it either. And I'm kind of at a point now where I'm ready to settle in
Yeah.
and just see how good I can get if I let my body just exist.
Yeah. And do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
What would you tell a client in your same position?
It really depends on the goals. So like for 99% of people, I would never encourage them to pursue the sport how I did. Like it's subjectively not healthy. Like my body weight would fluctuate 40 pounds over the course of the year. Um, I don't regret that because I got to do some cool shit, but like that's objectively not healthy. Like I would
Sure.
never encourage someone to do that unless they had similar goals and it was realistic for them to achieve that. Like okay,
Yeah.
like if you're aware that the things you have to do are not gonna feel good and you're okay with that. I think it's just that education of like, this is not necessarily the healthiest way to go about this, but like, I don't really think being the best in the world at any sport is completely healthy all the time. Like
No,
there's
I agree.
there's
Yeah.
I
training
agree
and
with that.
fitness for health, and then there's training for competition,
Yeah.
and they're not the same.
Nope.
And so it depends on the client and what they want out of it.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to frame that. It's like you said, hindsight's 2020. And it's really hard, when you are one of the best in the entire world at this sport to not push for all the opportunities that affords you. But I thought it was a, a very true thing that you said, that the body still and the mind exists with conflict within that, right? And even though your purpose and your goal and everything is pushing towards this achievement, being selected for these shows, there's still a part in the back of your mind that isn't happy, right? And doesn't enjoy the lack of athleticism and the sloth and the feeling, right, of being bigger like that. And anyone that's gained significant weight and held it for a period of time, and then taken it off, like you can really, your body, you become numb almost in a lot of ways to like all the fatigue and all the um, feeling of being tired that you have at those higher body weights. And when that weight comes off, it's very startling sometimes how much more athletic and free and light on your feet you are, and then you feel the difference in strength as well. So it creates kind of like that other missed feeling. But I think that's what makes it realistic as well, and that there's an actual sacrifice to the goal that you have to go through that is part of achieving the goal, and recognizing that sacrifice and how long you want to pay it, right, is a really important part of that overall athletic journey.
Well,
Yeah, you have to be able to look at the pros and cons and like
Yeah.
weigh that like cost to benefit ratio. Like right now, I'm not strong. Like my trainings just look different. My body weight's down. It hasn't been my priority since November. Um, but my daily life is so much better versus I look at my last appearance at the Arnold Classic. I was so strong. I also, for the last like 2, 3 weeks, I couldn't sleep in my bed because laying flat made my arms fall asleep, and I would have to go out and
Oh,
sleep in the recliner because I had put on so much mass between weighing in at 160 in November to weighing 200 in March. My body just freaked out. Like I
yeah.
was in pain all the time. I couldn't sleep because I couldn't lay down. Um, but I was strong. So like, where is
Yeah.
that middle ground where you're kind of happy with both and it's hard to find.
I
Yeah.
think
If it even exists, right?
Yeah.
it
What
makes
would you
you
want to
such
say,
a
Monica?
it makes you such a good coach though. Like
Yeah.
having that experience of being able to not just live it, but come away with some good data for people that like, yeah, let's say maybe you do have a client that, has similar goals or is just even curious about that, what that looks like. You have some hard data to provide, which is like priceless, really. I mean, that's a good yeah, for have like you said, and with hindsight, you've got like really great experience that you can give to other people and express like, because I think a lot of times when it comes to weight class sports, is especially as females, we see it a lot in powerlifting where it becomes really an emotional experience and talking about, where they're supposed to fit and be the strongest or how they feel in comparison. And I think the more we talk about those things and like the differences, because the better it helps us understand ourselves and how we should navigate our sport.
And I think that's a really important part of being a coach is having those honest conversations. Cause like
Yeah.
I will never tell anyone that their goals are not achievable. Like I
Yeah.
think that like humans are capable of literally anything we set out to do. But I do think it's important to have those honest conversations about what it's actually going to take
Yeah.
because everyone who says they'll do whatever it takes, it's not true. Like
Totally.
everyone has a limit, myself included. Like we all have a line where no one is literally going to do whatever it takes. And so like having those honest conversations about like, okay, this is what it looks like to achieve what you want. Are you okay with that? Like those are hard conversations to have, but I think that's just as important as I think more important than just blindly supporting people in their goals
Yeah.
Absolutely.
without
Yeah.
talking to them about what they're getting into.
And it's how we can have accountability, with our lifters as well. It's like, hey, you said X was the goal, right? Well, that means we need to be focusing on Y, Z, A, B, B, right? I just went around the alphabet, but
Just pick some random letter.
but yeah, the acknowledgement of what it's really going to cost is needed for actual accountability, and not just, telling people what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. All right. Next question. This is to all of us. We'll start with Monica. Do you prefer to travel to competitions in a group or by yourself?
I haven't really done it by myself. I would be so lying if I sat here and said that one was better than the other. I've never I've never gone by. I've competed alone, but I've always been in accompaniment with you or other, supporting.
Cincinnati was just me and Dave, though.
I
Yeah.
feel like that was pretty
Okay.
much you competing.
Okay, well, I'll say
Yeah.
that. Okay, yes, if
Well,
you're
any
gonna
bet,
call
but
that alone, I'm thinking of like, girls showing up to the meet all by herself with her gear and no coach, no friends. That's alone, okay?
Sure.
Like that's
Yeah.
what I consider like alone. But
Do you ever wish you were alone though?
training by myself, like my accessories, I don't want anything else but to be alone with myself in that time. It's really hard for me to do those workouts with clients or other teammates and stuff because I really have to get into the headspace of I'm going to destroy myself right now and I don't want to be interrupted with chit chat. So that's the only time I'm like I really want to be alone for that to do that. But I guess competing by myself this last time in Cincinnati was the first time I competed without a teammate, at least for a long time since the very beginning. And I definitely missed familiar faces. I didn't know anybody there. It was on the East Coast and so or Midwest, whatever you want to call it. And it so it's like you just don't know anybody and it's not the same kind of feels. And so I definitely missed my people in that moment. It made me really appreciate my people a lot and my teammates and people I've got to compete with. Um, but I guess I'm comfortable doing either. I like that I've been able to do either. But yeah, I don't know. They're both very different, I guess. I'm not distracted by my teammates, at least when I'm competing by myself. But at the same time, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence. I think I like competing with my team the most, training alone, accessory training
Okay.
alone.
The
Not team.
the hybrid option.
Yeah, I'm kind of a hybrid, I guess. I don't
Good.
know.
Jeff, how about you?
this last meet I did in November was the first one I've done in a long time without you there or anybody from the team. Mon was there, but you were reffing, so it wasn't exactly the same. But I prefer to be with the team for sure.
Yeah.
It's everything about it's better. The experience, the trap, like being able to have a bunch of people around you that are in the same state of mind that know exactly what you're going through and can empathize and you can have that conversation with them. I think that's really beneficial in the week of a meet. And then yeah, meet day when everybody's around you, you have that energy. Like yeah, you're in a different gym, a different facility, but you still have that familiarity of your team with you. I think that's very valuable as well. Um, yeah, I would prefer with the team as that's
How about you, Erin?
I like going to competitions where I know people competing. As far as like traveling and like who I stay with and who I surround myself with, I get very antisocial at
Mm-hmm.
competitions, especially when it's like a really important one. Like on the floor, I love lifting with my friends and it's a good time, but like in the mornings, end of the day, like when I come back to the B&B, I am very quiet and antisocial. So I've done like the athlete house thing where I go and we like rent a big house with a bunch of people and it's fine. I don't dislike that. But it's not my preferred because I'll probably just go to my room and shut the door anyways. I can tell you who I like. My partner Steven, my nutrition coach Spencer comes with me to do a lot of things. And then Dan and Tasha, my coaches, I'll stay with them at meets, and they're all people who are there to support me and also know me well enough to know what I need and also not take it personal if
Yeah.
I'm like feeling a type of way or if I just want to go to the room or like other people that I'm comfortable asking what I need. And sometimes what I need is to be left alone or like whatever. Um, the more people that are around, the more like I just feel inclined to like I feel like I have to socialize or I have to like entertain or like I can't be like that. So I prefer just that small group of people that know me well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
And it's just
I
nice to have Spencer there because then I don't have to think about my food.
right.
Like
That's
I'm
huge.
sitting here thinking like when I think, yeah, I still don't feel like that was an alone experience in Cincinnati. So I just can't say that because I like had Jeff and Dave and it's like my two best buds. Like why would like I didn't feel alone at all. And Yvette was there, I guess.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, I wasn't alone. Yeah, I can't say that. I just can't say I've ever competed alone, really.
I think completely alone is really hard.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
It's like not knowing anybody and not having any support with you. And I see that all the time as a ref and as a coach. Like it meets and it just I just want to like mama like go scoop them up and like yeah, give them a hand because it's like man. And I mean I saw a gal actually the meet that you did, Jeff, and the one I was refing at. She bombed out too, which really sucked. She's all by herself. She had a personal trainer as a coach, set her up for this, and then wasn't there to help her all day. And she, it just like that killed me watching that. I just think that's gotta suck so bad. And it ruins like the first impression of the sport for that person too. Shame on that trainer that sent her in there like to the wolves den. That's terrible.
Bad.
Yeah.
Even after competing for over a decade, like I still get anxious about new environments. Like if there's a competition somewhere that like I've never been, I don't know where things are. Like I get really anxious about that. So I can't imagine being a new lifter going into that alone, not knowing what to expect. That would be so hard.
Totally.
Like I still don't like that.
Yeah, yeah, right. Oh man, that was hard to watch. Hard.
It's not fun.
Dave, what's your preference?
I
Have you ever competed alone, Dave?
Have you?
Every meet I've ever done has been because, either my best friends were doing it or I had decided to do it and invited the team along, if they wanted to do it as well. So it's been a long time since I've competed and just had to worry about my own lifting at a meet. And the way I kind of started to view it and frame it for myself was if I can coach, 5 to 10 lifters and then go out the next day or the same day and hit a total, that's a pretty impressive feat. And it's kind of just started framing it in my head as like powerlifting plus. It's Amish powerlifting. It's a meeting again. It's a much more difficult setup to be able to coach others, manage your own arousal state, stay on top of your nutrition, load everyone's plates, call everyone's attempts, and then show up the next day ready for business. And I like the challenge of that. I would say if I was trying to put up my best total ever, I would like the freedom of not having to coach anyone during that competition and just be able to show up for myself. But that's
Good news is that Jeff and I have heard that out of your mouth before. Now that's twice. So now you have two supporting characters that can hold you to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you manage your energy levels when you're coaching and competing at the same meet?
Curious minds would like to know.
A lot of caffeine, nicotine, and carbohydrates.
So you just mask.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, and if anything, I just think of it as like leaning into the difficulty of the weekend, right? Where I know this is going to be hard on my body, so I will prepare my body with adequate sleep. I will take care of my mind with mindfulness drills, meditation, constant breath work. I will manage my expectations accordingly, and I will make sure that I'm prepared to give each client exactly what they need to have a successful day, and that I'm prepared with my own attempts to have a successful day. And just at the end of the day, whether it's me or a client, what I'm looking for is, did I give my best effort on the day? And like I can miss lifts and not be too upset about it. Like, oh, I gave it a good shot. Or I can treat it with like a diagnostic eye, like, oh, I was a little out of position here. That's why that third attempt didn't happen. Or, oh, I got through all my benches. My pecs are intact. That's a win. And I think a lot of it just kind of comes down to managing expectations and not telling myself like, this is the meet. This is the meet that's going to break all my PRs. It's going to be a brand new shiny total PR. It's going to take me to that next level and just be honest with myself and what I should expect from my performance. Um, and at the same time, I, for me, I make it a big point to be mindful and present on the day and enjoy the time I have competing. And if I'm enjoying myself competing, it happened in Vegas, it happened in Canada, both big meets where I had a lot of coaching. I had a blast. It was the most fun I've had at a competition each time I did it. And it's the people that make it that way, and like seeing fellow competitors and meeting people in real life and creating those new relationships, like powerlifting and strength sports to me is so much more than the weight on the bar. It's the people you get to meet and see, right? Like over decades, and the relationships and the successes that you get to see with people in the sport, right? And like I think back to what, like 2015, Aaron, when I was down on the fucking north end, right? In that little tiny freaking
That's
space.
forever ago.
Yeah, it's forever ago. But at the same time, like the people you meet, right? And the relationships you form, you get to see these people do some superhuman things. Just like you were saying, like it really makes you believe that the potential of human beings is limitless because you see it constantly pushed over and over and over again. It's just this wonderful thing to be a part of. And so if I'm a part of it and I'm giving my best effort and I'm having a great time, my clients are having a great time, then, whatever outcome on the platform is the outcome on the platform. And I just frame it within the context that it occurred. Like, okay, this is the best I can do. Coaching 9 people the day before, 4 people the day of, right? And it's every meet and every competition has its own set of challenges anyways, whether it's fast warm-ups, a lack of specific equipment, right? An event getting changed out last minute. There's always going to be something that creates an obstacle that you have to overcome. And I think, where the sport itself of iron and strength sports is overcoming obstacles. And so if your competition day is reflective of that, like that's the success you should be looking for.
Cool. I love
Totally
it.
agree.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good tangent. All right, Aaron, one final question.
Okay.
This is for you with your coach's hat or bandana, however you want to. What do you look for when you're taking on new athletes? Is there a type of person you like coaching best or traits that your lifters share that you find really valuable? How do you know that, someone that comes to you is going to be a good fit?
I think there's always it's hard because it's not always tangible. I think I always do a FaceTime call with people first. I think that actually being able to see someone's face, there's an element of a human connection that gets lost through just like phone calls and text.
Agreed.
I think some of it's just kind of on feel. Like you can kind of tell in a first conversation with someone if like you communicate well and you vibe well. I love working with anyone who's willing to work hard. I think just by
Same.
nature of what I do, I end up getting a lot of consultations of people wanting to do strongman, compete in strongman, strength
Yeah.
sports in general. But not all of my clients are. Like I have clients of a spectrum of different goals. And I love them all. Like I love working with anyone who's excited to train and get better. And I actually some of my early years of coaching, I worked at a club in Bellevue, and I had a lot of like extreme weight loss clients, like morbidly obese, like have to lose 100+ pounds. They're some of my favorite people to work with, and I don't really get to do that as much anymore, just because of who I am as an athlete. Like mostly athletes end up reaching out to me, but I love that kind of like full lifestyle overhaul where it's more than just like giving someone a program and telling them what to do in the gym, but it's like, okay, like we have to look at your life as a whole
Yeah.
and how do we improve your quality of life as a whole. Um, I get just as excited about that, if not more so than like big lifts. Um, don't know if that really answers the question. There's not really any like one specific type of client I like to work with, but anyone who I can tell is ready to make change. And I will say that's One of the biggest, I think I get asked all the time, like what I do to advertise or market my coaching business, and I
Yeah.
don't because
No.
I do all these like consult calls, and people ask me like, you ever like run deals or stuff, and like, and it's more comes down to I feel like if someone needs to be incentivized, then they're not ready.
Yeah.
And so like I intentionally don't advertise or market or do any of that because I don't want to work with someone unless they've gotten to a point where they've thought about it, they have made a conscious personal decision that they are ready to change, and because of that they reach out and they're ready to take that step on their own without needing to be pushed. Um, that's kind of the biggest thing that I'm looking for, is for someone to actually be mentally ready on their own to make change.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you even shared too, like something your clients have in common. And it's the same thing I look for in mine, right? It's like, are you going to work hard?
Mm,
Is hard work an idea that's actually attractive to you? Do you do other hard things in your life? Right. And like, do you see this as, a means to create greater opportunity, greater health, greater fulfillment of your time here on earth? If so, fuck yeah, I want to work with you, right? But when there's that disconnect there, or, it's only losing weight to achieve a certain status, right? Not even health related, not even empowering related, just pure external motivation. I think like real good coaches can sense that
mm.
and
You
can
know,
really tell.
I'll say not always, but like sometimes I've kind of a little bit of a test when I can tell like I'm not really sure if someone is like all in. I'll give them homework right off the bat.
Hmm.
Be like, okay, I'm gonna send you these videos to watch. It's something simple. Like I'm gonna send you these videos to watch. Let me know what you got out of it. Something simple like that. And I can tell immediately because if someone's like ready, they'll watch them the first day. And like the
Yeah.
next day, they'll be like, I watched the videos last night. This is what I thought. Versus if I check in a week later, I'm like, do you ever watch those? Oh, no, I haven't had time
Oh,
the past week. Like that's the number one fastest indication to me that you're not actually ready.
Yeah.
And for like
yes.
most people, I can kind of tell from the call. But if there's ever that little bit of like uncertainty, like that's a real easy test to see if someone's ready to actually make the time for it.
And it completely changes like how you engage with that client too. Like, all right, week one, I already have to be on your ass about basic things versus week one. Oh, they're right on board. They're already asking great questions. I'm excited to watch this person grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love a client who's engaged that
Yes.
like, and I feel like I've worked with coaches where I feel like asking questions is like annoying, or
Mm,
like I've had that relationship as an athlete. Um, and I hate that. Like, cause
yeah.
I love that so much as a coach. If an athlete of mine is invested enough to be curious and ask questions, that's a huge green flag for me. Like
Yeah.
I never take that to mean like they're like questioning my program or they don't trust me or anything. Like I love that curiosity because I think
Yes.
like that shows me someone who's invested in the process and not just
And it makes
doing
them
what
be
they're told.
collaborative as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, great point, Jeff. Like that's where collaboration actually exists is you have an athlete who's confident enough in their relationship with their coach that they can ask questions, they can clarify things, right? And the coach sees someone that like, oh, they actually care. I normally only get to talk about this stuff on like freaking messaging boards or at competitions face to face with other coaches. Like to have a client asking and want to really understand is a wonderful thing. It allows to really build that coach athlete relationship, and be able to share. I think a big part of our job as coaches too is sharing the lessons we've learned and continuing the legacy of the sports we participate in and all the great people we learn things from, and being able to pass that on to another generation, right? And just keep that knowledge and spirit alive.
Sure. Like
Um,
coaching is so much more than just writing a program.
it's
Oh, it's, yep.
we've talked about this.
Sure is, Aaron. It sure is. I would argue it's everything but writing the fucking program because a machine can do that.
Yep.
Not as good as we can, but yeah, no, absolutely. It's a very different thing to program versus coach.
Yep. 'cause
Good.
you have to coach the whole
The
person.
person. Yeah. It's a people
Holistically,
business.
right? Yep. It's a people business.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Say just minor on that because I think for years, as I transitioned, it took me a while to figure out because I did exclusively in person for a while, and that
Yes.
transition to online was really hard. Um, it's just more conducive to my life to be online, but I really struggle with it because you lack that human connection. Um, and for a long time, I just kind of was like, I guess this is just how online coaching is. Um, I started doing a weekly call with people where I'm like, it has to be a FaceTime. Like, we're actually going to FaceTime. I'm going to see your face and your body language and how you react to things. Because you don't get that over text and like video check-ins.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge part that was missing. And it doesn't fix everything, but it's
Sure.
such a small little thing that keeps the element of like human connection where it doesn't just feel transactional. Like, here, I give you a program, you do it, you send me videos. Like, being able to just see someone's face and ask how their life is going. Like, what do they have coming up this weekend? Like, little
Yeah.
things like that that make it a human relationship and not
Yeah.
just a screen.
Yeah. And you
This is
get
true.
clients for life that way. You get clients that are really going to stick around and hang around, and you're not wasting time having to run ads and promotions and all these things just to keep a revolving door with your client base. Instead, you actually just get to grow and then cultivate and really spend your time where it's deserved.
And actually get to know and learn people and understand people that, I mean, it takes years sometimes to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
Well, and then what shocks, I was talking to Monica about this the other day. I client Chris, I've been working with for 6, almost 7 years, right? And still picks out goals for himself. Still has things he wants to chase and do and accomplish. And I just think it's the coolest thing when you build these long-term relationships with your athletes, right? And they're still looking for ways to improve and still, not settling for what they have and just building their life and their capacity to live it. It's a very motivational thing to surround yourself with people like that. And it boosts your own output of what you're
Mhm.
able to do.
for sure.
Excellent. Well, we really got into it today. That was
Good
good
talk.
timing. Yeah. This is my favorite coaches call we've done so far. Erin,
Nice.
thank you so
Thank you.
much
Yeah,
for
thanks for having
joining
me.
us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Could you give a quick shout out for your socials where people could find you?
Yeah, easiest place is Instagram. It's just my name, erinmurray.wsw for World's Strongest Woman. That's the easiest place because everything else is just in my bio there. I am back on YouTube and trying to be better about that. So if you could all do me a favor and go subscribe over there and help me out. Those
Absolutely.
are the two main platforms that I use.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for joining us today. That is it for our Ops April Coaches Call featuring 4 times World's Strongest Woman, Erin Murray. Thank you
Thank you,
all
guys.
for watching.